now, Jessica. So if you're JD Vance, things are looking like you're in the pole position, and Erika Kirk endorsement certainly isn't going to hurt you in that sense.
Sure. Joe Khalil at the White House. Joe, thanks so much. Well, for more on this, let's bring in the managing director of Nestpoint and Republican strategist John Thomas. Thanks so much for being here. I want to dive right into some of the biggest headlines coming out of this weekend's Turning Point USA event. There appears to be a lot of infighting among some of the biggest names within right-wing media, especially when it comes to Israel. But let's take a look.
So, for example, if many speakers, including Tucker Carlson and others, get on stage here at TPUSA and claim, without proper evidence, that Jeffrey Epstein was running a Mossad rape ring being covered up by the Trump administration, they are not actually uncovering a conspiracy or effectuating a solution.
To hear calls for, deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? This is hilarious.
All right, so how are Republicans reacting behind the scenes to what appears to be a genuine split within the party?
Well, this is a complicated thing to unpack because there's a lot of dynamics at play. On the positive side, I think what we saw out of the Turning Points conference is it's the largest conference they've ever had. That means the Republican movement is growing, so that's good. On the negative side is it's very contentious, very fractured, and a fractured party was not going to both prevail in the midterms and prevail in the next presidential cycle. I think the challenge you have with Republicans in general is that the ethos or ideology of a Republican is really rooted in this idea of a rugged individual, meaning you're independent and you're a free thinker. And that causes a lot of people that believe that to come together at a party that have disagreeing positions and ideas. And it's manifesting out. Juxtaposed, I would say, more on the Democratic side, which are more about the cohesive unit and outcome rather than the individual's thought. We saw that with a replacement with Kamala Harris very quickly of Joe Biden. So the Republicans are going to have to move past this. They've got a little bit of time, not much to the midterms, but certainly as they start to think about who's going to replace Donald Trump, I think you're going to start to see these things settle out. And I think the way this all gets settled out is the right kind of Republican leader that can unify the party as we look towards the next presidential cycle.
Okay, so JD Vance has been by Erika Kirk's side since Charlie Kirk was killed. And at this weekend's Turning Point U.S. event, that support is coming full circle. She's been in support of him this whole time, but here's what she said this weekend.
We're going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, JD Vance, elected for 48 and the most resounding way possible.
All right, so with her endorsement for him as president and to President Trump's heir to this MAGA throne, will the rest of the GOP fall in line, or what are you hearing?
Bluntly, no. I'm not surprised at all, though, to see not just Erika's position, but also Turning Point's position at this point with JD Vance. Let's not forget that if it weren't for Charlie Kirk, Turning Points, and quite frankly Don Jr., JD Vance wouldn't be the vice president of the United States. So it makes sense that they're trying to elevate and position him early on. But as we can see with the other infighting on more lesser important issues than the actual nominee, there's a lot of disparate opinions going on. Does JD have an advantage this far out? Sure he does, but it is a long road to the primary process. So JD obviously has an advantage, but there's a lot of other strong Republicans that could potentially eclipse JD, and I think it's going to take more than just a Turning Point endorsement to move the whole party.
All right, a new political poll shows that only 70% of non-MAGA voters hold positive views on President Trump's actions, while 95% of voters do. Does this indicate a growing divide among your party?
That's a great question. I think what's happening here, and this happens to a lot of presidents, which is they get kind of captured by the bubble that is the Oval Office, and they forget that they need to communicate their message, both in what they're going to do and what they've done, to the American people and the base. And I think some Republicans are drifting away, not so much because they disagree with the president's agenda, but I think they've just lost track of what exactly that is. And I think the president recognizes that. I think that's why you're seeing him more out doing rallies these last just couple weeks and taking his message to the people. That's what he has to do. I think it'll stick, But look, it's the president's job. He said it, that he's got to hold on to the midterms, because if the Republicans lose in the midterms, the President Trump's presidency is effectively over for the balance of his term.
Interesting. All right. Leading Republican candidate for Ohio, Governor Vivek Ramaswamy, made some headlines for calling out his party for rising intolerance against Indian Americans. Let's take a look at this.
If you believe in normalizing hatred towards any ethnic group, toward whites, towards blacks, towards Hispanics, towards Jews, towards Indians, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. Period. And I will not apologize for that. I will not hedge when I say it. If you believe, and you will forgive me for giving you an exact quote from our online commentator Nick Fuentes, if you believe that Hitler was pretty cool, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement.
All right. What's your reaction to hearing someone say that that exists within the conservative movement and needs to go?
Well, I don't think anybody's ever denied that there's been a thread of that. I think the concern, and good for Vivek to stepping up to the podium to address this, is I think his concern is that it's the Nick Fuenteses of the world are so taboo that they're actually getting more eyeballs and attention, and that could lead to actually getting traction. I don't think anybody within the Republican Party thinks that's a mainstream thought about Nick Fuentes, but Vivek's doing his best to stomp it out and take that position. And it looks like he has been dealing with that level of racism on the internet, and he's quite frankly fed up. So I think it's good that he voices what he thinks is important. And I think at the AmericaFest conference, that's where these ideas, you're trying to inject them into the bloodstream of the party to push forth your priorities. So I think he was doing the right thing there, and I'm not overly worried about the Nick Fuenteses of the world. I think it's a flash in the pan at the moment.
Okay, before we go, looking ahead, do you think the Republican Party is going to be able to unite Americans at the ballot boxes as they gear up for next year's midterm elections? And what do they need to do to stop all of this infighting and finger pointing?
Oh, Jessica. Oh, boy.
Easier said than done, right?
That's a tough one. Yeah. I think they are going to coalesce more as we go into Election Day and the midterms. But look, history isn't on the side of the party in power, which is the Republicans. It's really not looking great for them. But I think if the president focuses on what he does best, which is taking his message directly to the people, he can slowly coalesce. But the politics of self-interest in the next presidential cycle are not going anywhere, no matter what President Trump tries to do. So I think it's just, honestly, oftentimes campaigns are about closing at the right moment as you get closer, and that's what Trump and the Republicans have to focus on. And honestly, Jessica, the jury's out if that will happen or not.
All right, John, we'll check back with you, I'm sure, many a time. Thanks so much, and happy holidays.
You too.
Well, the race to get